It's time for Measure Twice.
Welcome to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk, 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, and cabinets and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors. And, drum roll, I don't know how we're going to do that. The Dean from Hoosier Hardwood Floors is here. And you know Hoosier Hardwood Floors. They're Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. And you can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. But all that is very minuscule than to have the man in the room that we talk about. We talk about how great of a dancer you are. What else do we do when he's not here behind his back and not looking?
Now, I'll just say this. I'm an Amish boy. Amish boys don't dance.
Oh, that's right. That's that failed song from the 50s, the Amish Boogie, that never made it. It was like the twist, and then it was like, didn't make it to the charts.
No, that just isn't going to make it.
I like the Amish garb you got on today.
Thank you.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. Like the beard and everything?
Yeah, wow. Yeah. It's you can hear it scrape against the microphone if you listen closely, ladies and gentlemen. I do, though, like the swag, though. It's a good look.
Thank you.
And then
I'm the only one not logoed.
Yeah. Well, you're famous enough, Chris. You don't need the logo.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're a bright star.
Yeah.
People just follow the light, Chris, and the warmth, and the beauty, and the birds. He comes in, sometimes there's just the bluebird on his shoulder.
Yeah.
Sure. We can't even mention that movie on the air. Cannot mention it.
Broke out on the song.
Can we say Brer Rabbit on the air? Briar Rabbit. It's not Brer Rabbit? Briar Rabbit. Yeah. Joel's like, I don't even know this movie. It was canceled.
I saw it in the theater when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. I think that was the last time they showed it.
I would think.
Back in the 60s. Thank you, Joel.
Joel's like putting him on mic. Okay.
You're talking.
So this is what happens, Dean, we start talking.
I've been here before, so I know how this goes.
We forget what we're doing in here.
That's why it's so much fun,
Why are we here?
See, I just need to go back to the movie. I thought you were talking about Fletch.
No, Fletch is an American classic, okay? Right, Chris?
Right.
Yeah, we can hear you. Usually we talk about movies when we don't have anything to talk about, but we do today. So Hoosier Hardwood Floors over in Goshen, but it doesn't matter because you guys are doing work everywhere.
Yeah, we go basically from Lake Michigan to south of Fort Wayne is kind of our...
Wow.
Yeah, I don't like going more than an hour and 15, but sometimes we do.
Right. Yeah. Well, Fort Wayne, what is that?
Yeah, south side of Fort Wayne is an hour and 20 minutes from our shop.
Well, word gets around, though, in your business, right? Because the specific, if we talked about what specifically made you famous, it's that restoration.
Yes. There's not many of us, there's not many of us out there that can tackle some of the projects that we do. I tell my guys all the time that there's things that we do that there's other companies that sand and refinish floors, but they won't go to the detail and the length that we do to get things right.
Right. And I hear what you're saying. It's like there's other flooring companies out there, and that's fine, and they love their mamas and do all the right stuff, but with the niche that you've carved out is that really fine work and that restoration that's perfect when it counts,
that's special, that takes a little extra.
Right.
That's what we like to do. So, I've got some guys that are really good at the fine stuff. So
we're talking with Dean from Hoosier Hardwood Floors, and we're talking about the what would you say the business that made the company, the core of the company is taking, like, if you had your floor got stained, damaged, it's old, and you need to match new floor up against the old floor. What else am I leaving out? Like that restoration type project, right? Like that's where it started.
Yeah. That's where it started.
And how do you get to that point though that you know you're good at it?
Oh, I mean, it's trial and error, really. I mean, for us, it was we did the simple things as far as the easy stuff for many years, and then it kind of probably back in mid 2000, stains started coming out, all the different colors, and then there's a lot of guys that sanded floors like we did that wouldn't stain floors. We don't stain floors. That's what they would say.
They would just sand.
They just sand. They just sand and put natural. Just put clear coats on.
Oh, okay. I was like, we're just sanding this thing.
Yeah,
we're out of here.
I mean, you guys know back in the day, it was just natural. They didn't do stain. That's how it was for years. And then when stains started coming out, that you put stain on the floor to get different colors. That's when it blew up. And
then the rest is history, if you will. Matching that color is like an art. So.
Yeah, and we were willing to basically go wherever the colors needed to go, with the designers and decorators, wherever they wanted that color to go. That's where we would go.
But also the matching of the size of the floor, because they don't make old. We talk about restoration all the time in here, old like 100-year-old floors.
Chris has. Chris, we did some work for Chris this summer.
I didn't want to point at Chris, but yeah,
that was an interesting. I don't think a lot of people could have done what we did there.
And I have to tell you, the finished product is spectacular. I was. This is no joke. I was in the dining room last night thinking, I think I want to be that commercial where the people are laying on their floors, stroking it, because it's. I'm serious. They're that beautiful. I'm serious. They're that beautiful.
Thanks, Chris.
I mean, he's doing that already, so he might as well make money off of it.
The best thing to do is just to pass by and pretend he didn't say it.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Those commercials. I can't remember the flooring company, but everybody's laying on their floors. And neighbors come in and say,
"Yeah."
But that's how beautiful they turned out. And stop laughing. But
it's the picture. Right?
We're all being grown up here, except for
but they're so. It's like I didn't want to take it for granted. I mean, it's like wow. And now my other floors that you didn't do look bad.
So they're outclassing the. You though,
to me,
yeah,
to me, I need to have them come back and finish them.
Yeah, that particular job, we had sourced the lumber different than normal because these floors are
190.
Yeah, 190 years old, and the thickness was different than normal thickness on hardwood. Solid hardwood is 3/4 inches thick. His were like an inch and a quarter. So we had to source it at different places in order to get to it. And honestly, 25 years ago when I first started, I would not have been able to handle this job,
Right.
And
because you wouldn't have the sources available.
Yeah.
And I bet there's some on-the-job modifications there too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I had one of my guys out there who has seen. He's seen a lot more than I even have, and he was working out there, and I had two guys that can really do whatever it takes to make something work. So,
and that was the case because I'm sure that they're an inch. Would you say an inch and a quarter?
Yeah, they're between inch and a quarter, inch and an eighth, an inch and a quarter.
That's a lot of wood.
Yeah, that's a plank.
Back then, that's a plank, right?
Yeah.
You don't even need a subfloor in that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that because they're so old, they're also imperfect.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they did. They for sure were.
So there's a lot of things going on there.
Yeah.
It takes a while to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have certain jobs, if you have a job, your floor's 190 years old, Chris, you probably went into that knowing this is not going to be a 48-hour project.
I knew it would take time. There was just no question.
Right.
And what if you had to back it up? What I had to have done was I put posts and beams in the floor to support it. So they actually they had to come in and remove the original floor in sections, and they actually
right.
they had to take up the original because I wanted to save as much of the original floor as possible, and that took a lot of time. And they were meticulous in how they took those boards out, how they taped them, labeled them, so they knew exactly where they were on the floor.
Really?
And so they could put it back where it originally was.
There's an archaeological portion to this, and I'm
Yes.
not being sarcastic.
This is restoration. This isn't just
it's
refinishing a floor.
Exactly, and that's where Hoosier Hardwood Floors has been that trusted for how many years now?
We've been in business since 97.
So a little while.
Yeah.
When we come back, let's talk about, we can move it forward just a little bit.
Yeah.
This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Machinist News Talk 95.3 MNC. We're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Machinist trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. How'd I do, Dean? We're here with Dean from the Hoosier Hardwood Floors.
I like it.
He's redoing the floors here. We can't stop him. He's not supposed to. He just keeps refinishing these floors.
It's
when
just
we're on
what I
break.
do.
Yeah. By the time we're done with this show, we'll have new floors in here, which is nice. I'm just kidding. We wouldn't do that. How are the floors at your house? Are they beautiful?
They are. They're nice. Yeah, I always tell people I have hardwood floors from the front door to the back door.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hardwood floor table, hardwood floor counter, hardwood floor cabinets.
Ceilings.
Ceilings are hardwood floor. We have a hardwood floor couch.
Yeah, people always wonder, where's the one, what places shouldn't you put hardwood floors in? And I always give them that spiel. I put at my house, it's from the front door to the back door. So, except for I don't have it in my bathrooms. So
No hardwood floors in your
hardwood floor
bathroom?
in bathrooms, no.
Laundry room?
Laundry room, yes.
You do have hardwood in the
Yeah.
laundry room?
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just curious.
Yeah, yeah.
well, how resistant is, I'm getting out of order on our show.
Well, that is actually a great segue for Chris's question.
It is, really.
What? Wasn't my question.
Your finishes.
Oh,
Yeah.
because I have hardwood in my laundry room, and I've had 2 floods. So,
Yeah, it's floods are not good with
His laundry room is actually...
Air.
Yeah. Actually, Chris's laundry room, there's a river that runs through it, and he just slaps his clothes against the rocks. It's messy. It's very messy.
The laundry gets about as much. The kitchen gets more damage, with refrigerators than what the laundry room
as far
does.
as leaking or...
Yeah, generally your refrigerator and sometimes dishwasher are issues that we have to do a lot of repairs for. But oftentimes with the layout of the house, it just doesn't make sense to do any other type of flooring. Mm-hmm. The laundry room sometimes is a little bit easier because it's often separate.
Sure.
But your kitchen, it generally runs right in there. So we usually do a lot of wood floors in kitchens.
Well, let me ask you then, can you have a different finish in that room to make it less susceptible?
No, I mean, it's really not about the finish. It's, with hardwood floors, there's a real fine gap between each separate board. I mean, it's put in separately, and it's so if you get flooded and it gets underneath it can get through that gap. I mean, it doesn't take much for water to get in. Then you get that cupping and water damage, and oftentimes If you get it quick enough, you can dry it out. There's different companies that come in with some drying machines that can dry it out and save it, and then we have to usually come in and refinish it. But if it's a saturation, like a slow leak is actually almost worse than a flood, because you don't see it until there's saturation, and then you have to generally take wood out and put new in, and then sand refinish it.
Right. The slow leaks, I think that's true with every floor, because if you don't know there's a leak, then the damage is happening, and you're not.
Yeah.
Constant.
Yeah, it's 24 hours a day, working against whatever it's working against.
Mm-hmm.
We're here with Dean from Hoosier Hardwood Floors. I guess now we're talking about the finishes of the floor. What are the different? I don't mean colors, because it's a billion.
Yeah.
I meant, what are there different finishes you can get for your floor, or is it just basically one thing?
We use, depends on the application, as far as we use oil-based top coats. We use all oil-based stains, and then from the stain up, it's usually either an oil-based sealer, or we can switch to water-based sealers. A sealer is different than a top coat. So generally it's stain, one coat of sealer, then 2 top coats. And so what the top coats that we use are the oil-based side. It's a product called Poloplaz. It's they've had a long history of top quality finish. But it's oil based, so it has smell. It's a little bit more during the summertime. It kind of takes a little bit longer to dry. What we prefer to use as far as top coats go is, because of the guys that are working with it, is a water based product made by Bona, and they're low VOCs, so it's generally the homeowner isn't going to have a whole lot of odor to deal with when we're applying it and as it's curing out. If there's let's say a lot of pine floors, we'll use the oil base because we get better, faster build with that. A lot of the newer floors will almost always use the Bona products, the water-based finishes.
Well, let's take a step back, though. What the purpose for the stain is obvious, right? The color.
Just color, yeah.
And then the purpose for the sealer.
The purpose for the sealer, it penetrates. It's a better penetrator into your wood fibers.
Okay.
It's the viscosity is a little bit thinner, so it can penetrate a little bit better than your top coats are more for durability.
But when you say...
So is the sealer like a binder almost between the floor and the top coat?
Yeah, the sealer is designed to attach to the fibers of the wood better. It has better penetration into your wood fibers. And then, it also, in the wood business, in the hardwood floor business, there's a thing, it's called side bonding, where we want each individual board to be separate. We don't want it to be a big sheet. We want each individual board to have the little real fine gap in there that you don't necessarily see, but it's there. But that keeps it from what we call panelization, where you have a bunch of them stuck together tight, and then you have one big gap, which is unsightly. Wow. My biggest, one of the biggest callbacks for us is gapping, and gapping is normal. It's an awkward conversation to have after the fact if somebody wasn't expecting it, but if it's sold, the job is sold properly, they know to expect that. During the wintertime, your humidity level comes down, and that makes wood floors dry out, so you get these gaps in your hardwood. That's totally normal. But the sealers that we use are designed to keep the side bonding from happening, where you really don't see the gaps, like you would maybe if you'd go straight to top coat.
That's part of, and Chris, you talked, this is a while ago, but you had talked about he talked about that very thing. Like when you put down a laminate floor, it doesn't have. That's why it feels artificial, because you don't have the natural gaps, the natural things that have to happen.
Yeah, the characteristics.
And
sure.
what I'm hearing you say is, we're talking with Dean Yoder from Hoosier Hardwood Floors. What I'm hearing you say is like, well, the gaps are necessary. Obviously, if you didn't leave room for the boards to breathe, they would come up.
Yeah,
right? You'd have
get
a bubble. It would be.
Yeah. In the best case, if you could control all your humidity levels throughout the year, northern Indiana, you get the high humidity in the summer, you get the really low humidity during the wintertime. That makes wood floors move, and those are the callbacks that I get. During the summertime, generally in about June to August, you get hey, my floor has a little bit of a washboard, a little bit of a cup to the floor. Is that normal? Yes, that's normal during the summertime. Then in the wintertime, about February, I get the call, hey, why am I getting gaps in my floor? I didn't have them, 6 months ago. Well, then you have to talk about humidity level.
Do they disappear? I mean, this might be a dumb question. I don't know. Do they come and go?
My normal, I always go out and look at them. But my normal thing is I say, hey, okay, when I go out and look at it, I see if it's something unusual. If it's what I would expect to see, then what I usually do is set a date 6 months later with them. Hey, I'll be back on, let's say July 15th, let's say, and we'll look at it then, and that gap is going to be gone. If it's not, then you may have an issue. But if that gap closes up, that's your normal movement that you're going to, seasonal movement is what it's called.
Right. And because you have a living thing.
Yeah.
You didn't plant a tree, but a tree never stops being a tree.
Right.
Its whole existence. If you can put eyes on a tree, it's being a tree.
Yeah.
That's something Joel always talks about. It's a living thing. It's going to move.
Yeah. It's all about humidity.
Mm-hmm.
The less something moves, the less living it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like a granite countertop pretty much stays the same size, right? I mean,
Well, and the floor in here doesn't move.
right.
Yeah.
The LVT.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to move.
That will not be affected by humidity or the lack of.
But that's part of the beauty and warmth.
Absolutely.
That's the warmth. That's when we talk about warmth. It's like being in the room with something living. Character. When we come back, let's talk about what we're supposed to talk about. I don't know what that is. But thanks again, Dean, for being in here with you. We're going to talk to you in just a minute. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We are brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com, or you can stop by the studio because we have Dean from Hoosier Hardwood Floors here. The Dean. If he was on Mount Rushmore, there would only be him.
Oh,
it would just
boy.
be Dean Rushmore is what it would be, or Mount Dean Moore. I don't know how that would sound, Dean, actually.
I think we just leave that one.
Yeah, we'll just... But it would have excellent floors. In the nostrils of Lincoln, if you go in there... No, I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that be great, though?
Yeah.
If you were... the National Park System flooring, this trail brought to you by Hoosier Hardwood Floors. That would be really funny.
That'd be interesting.
When do you install dirt floors too? No, I'm just kidding. That would be...
Haven't done that yet.
Not since the 1840s. But you do spend plenty of time around floors that were from the 1800s. And
we do.
What has changed? Okay, if I said a floor, because if you had a hardwood floor in 1820, you were wealthy, right? Because most of those floors were not necessarily hardwood floors.
Well, a lot of them were hardwood floors because they would cut them right there on site. And that's why you go into these older homes and the gapping. They have the wide plank generally 5 to 6 inches, and it could be intermixed 5 and 6. It's not necessarily.
They were just getting a floor
They
down.
were going out. And they were cutting trees, and they generally have like an 1/8 to a 3/16 gap in between each board because they were brought in without being kiln dried.
That sounds like a big gap.
Oh, it is. It's generally it can be for some of these older homes. It's not unusual to have an 1/8 inch gap in between each.
You can
plank.
see that gap.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
need bifocals to see that. You're
Yeah.
good. So then moving into the early 1900s, did the floors change a whole lot?
Yeah, I think kiln drying came in. They started doing that about early 1900s, and then you saw a lot of like the 2 1/4 wide. The what a lot of people would see now is that 2 1/4 inch wide. That was kind of a early 1900s to all the way through mid. Even 1.5 is what we see sometimes. That's a neat find is if they have an 1.5 wide by 3/4 thick. So pre-1900, a lot of the floors were also the subfloor. They would, and then like early 1900s, they came in and they put the 2 1/4 on top of that.
So you could have 2 1/4, and then under it is the original floor that is acting as a subfloor now.
Yeah, you can absolutely have that.
And so you can kind of walk. First of all, I think it's adorable that you just are like, that's really interesting. Like you can nerd out on floors, which is really cool.
I for sure can.
Like he's like, I was in this house, and like I could just see it at parties. Like, I got to go make my lap with Dean, and talk floors for a minute, and then I'm gonna go find a plumber now.
Yeah.
But so then up to the 50s, you saw that?
Yeah, I'd say the 2 1/4 actually was very popular, even up into the 1990s.
Really?
It was the wide plank. You started seeing more wide plank in 2000 and on.
So in the 1800s, though, it was thin because all the big trees they used for structure and the littler trees they used for floor, essentially, right? That's why they were thinner.
Well, they would just. To me, it seems like they just used what was close by, and they went by yield, whatever yielded the best. They used a lot of ash and oak.
Did they ever mix wood?
Sometimes, yeah.
That's got to be trouble.
Oak and ash, they kind of look a lot alike, and
I just meant for like movement, like don't they move?
They're very close to. Those are very close to the same, but that can be like hickory. You don't want to mix hickory and oak because hickory it moves a lot more than what oak.
Are there hickory floors?
Oh yeah.
I love that. I say stuff like that, and Chris is always like, "Yo, we have."
Yeah, we love selling.
How gauche.
Hickory's the floor that if people come into our showroom and ask, and I like to ask them if they have pets, if they have dogs. And hickory's it's a very hard, dense wood. It's a
They made
homegrown.
baseball bats out of them in the 1800s.
Yeah, hickory is a great option.
Is hickory harder to stain?
Hickory's a little bit more like maple. Maple's probably the hardest one, but hickory's close to that. Yeah, we have to be real careful. We change our sanding sequence for maple and for hickory.
So we're talking with Dean Yoder from Hoosier Hardwood Floors. So there's a different. Why is maple and hickory harder? Is it because it's harder? Is maple harder?
So maple is actually
denser? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little bit denser than oak, but maple doesn't have the open grain that oak and ash do. And so basically you have to use smoother paper, finer grits of paper so that you don't see your sander marks in it. And hickory's kind of the same way. Hickory is just a much harder wood. It's a real hard wood, so it's harder to get your scratch pattern out. So we have to change our sanding sequence a little bit to make sure that those sanding marks are gone before we stain the floor. When you stain a floor with staining marks in it, it's kind of unsightly.
Well,
I
people
just
don't
think,
go for
yeah,
that
I
look?
think this is really interesting because like every wood will react differently too. So like a pine, do you have to seal that before you stain it?
No, I usually we like to treat pine the same way. I like to we'll use the same color. Like a lot of times they put pine in places where they weren't really going to have it was hidden.
Yeah.
And so if let's say they have oak around the outside, pine in the middle, and then we would put a rug across that. So now they want to expose that. So we'll use the same stain and just let them know that, hey, the tones are going to be there, but it's going to be maybe just a little bit darker because it's going to absorb more. Yeah. But it'll still look great.
Oh yeah.
So they're
I like those old floors where it's the middle is the pine or something softer.
They do that to save money because it's cheaper.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that was done more in like the early 1900s. Wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. They would take the time and maybe border the room, which takes a lot more time, and then in the center,
Well, and we're talking with Dean Yoder from Hoosier Hardwood Floors. The most remarkable floor I've ever seen is in New Jersey, and it's in a great hall in Salem, New Jersey. It's built in the 1500s, and every board is different.
Oh yeah.
I mean, but it's really, and it's a big room.
Yeah.
So they must have just been like, we just got to gather all the wood, to get a floor down here. But you go in, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
It's something, and now that you mention it, it's like, that's really what it is. That was kind of cool. You would think it'd feel disorganized.
Yeah.
But it's really kind of cool.
You just got to, with something like that, you got to love the character. You get what you get there, and
Right.
it's unique. You can't replicate that.
No. No, and clearly after speaking with you, it's like they went out into the woods and were like, well, we have these 15 different kinds of trees. They're all coming in,
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, we're gonna fat ones, skinny ones. We got long ones and short ones. That are going in there.
That's what I appreciate about the old way is it was practical. I mean they did things in a practical way, and you get some really cool looks from it.
Well, when you invite nature in as part of as a co-designer, right? Like sometimes it's a warmer, more familiar, more natural, organic feel because it is that, right? It was born there, right, Chris? Like that's the thing, Yeah. So so there's no standardized width of flooring. Then.
I would say the standard width is 2 1/4. That's what most people recognize as the standard width. That 2 1/4 inch wide,
Is that so? Anything other than 2 1/4 would be special order type?
Yeah, I mean it's we get 2 1/4 and 3 1/4 they're milled. We just call our suppliers and they got it. Now if it's 4, 5, so they went 1.5 inches wide. That's a real narrow board.
I love that.
That's awesome when you see that because somebody spent a lot of time in there putting that in. The 1.5 inches, 2 1/4, and 3 1/4 would be kind of what you would see up through 1990, 95 maybe even. Right. Then it went more towards the wide plank, the 4, 5, 6.
Really?
Oh
yeah.
And now it's all about wide plank. I mean, in our showroom, we have 1 million samples. That's an exaggeration, but we have a lot of samples of 7.5 inch, 6 to 9 inch widths.
Yeah, because you don't really see 2 1/4 used much anymore.
The only time we still buy more 2 1/4 than almost anything else because of a lot of the houses in Granger had the 2 1/4 in. Mm-hmm. Now they want to keep that look going, so we'll take we'll add it in so that we still use a lot of it, but it's not the desired width.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, but new builds, are you saying or total remodels? They're
wide
plank.
Wide plank. What do you, Chris? Are you seeing 6-inch plank.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, easy.
Does it get much wider than 6-inch though?
We go, yeah, you'll go up to 9.
Sheet of plywood.
So yeah, so the when you get into that wider plank, that's when you get into the engineered floors where you put there has a veneer on top, but it's on a plywood base, or there's some different bases that they use to keep stability.
Cool. We went way over. Sorry, John Zimney. But this is so interesting. We're talking with Dean Yoder from Hoosier Hardwood Floors. We'll be right back. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and we're brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. And we know it's a fact because Dean's here with us from Hoosier Hardwood Floors. I mean, what do we have? At least a college degree in flooring now. Wouldn't you say that? You know, like from our
Maybe an
times
honorary college.
yes. I want to wear a beret as I walk the graduation line. That's what I want to wear. But we've learned, we've gone through the decades of how floors have changed. We've talked about finishes and color. And it's fascinating stuff because we talk about it all the time in here. Your floor is working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. You know, it doesn't take any time off. You're
walking on it. You're looking. That's what you're looking at. You know, and nothing like that feel of a nice hardwood floor.
So off air, Chris had mentioned something about engineered, and we were going to go into, you know, like, we're not beating up engineered floors. You describe what we mean when we talk about engineered floors.
An engineered floor, especially for the wide plank flooring, is very popular now. So the wider your plank, the more movement that you have if it's not on a plywood or a different substrate other than, you don't want the solid 3/4 then, because you get a little bit more movement then. So if you're on a plywood base, it provides stability for that wide plank flooring.
So one of the things that, like, when we talk about the movement, wood moves across the grain, not with the grain, and so the wider you go, the more width of grain you have, and so it's going to move a lot more the wider it gets. So that's why, like, that when he was talking about it in the last segment, I was thinking, man, that wide, there's just no way. It's like
hard to calculate the movement, right?
It would just be so much that it would. Yeah, you'd have some serious issues. I think.
We'll go solid up to 6 inches, but we always talk about what you can expect. Now, if you can go 7.5, 8, 9 wide on a engineered floor, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, we like to use engineered floors that's still going to be a lot of times engineered floors people think that they're going to be cheaper because it's just a veneer on top. We like to use flooring that's still going to be a lifetime floor because you can refinish. You have enough veneer on top to refinish down the road if you want to change color or have wear. So
what would be, like, when you talk about the veneer and the thickness, what is a good thickness for that?
We like 3 mil. 3 mil is like an 1/8 inch. If anything less than an 1/8 inch, you got to be real careful when you go in to sand and refinish. So I can walk in on me and my other Bert, same way. We walk in, we can walk the floor, and we can kind of figure out, is this engineered or is this solid? So we'll go check and see how much veneer we have on top. Whether or not we can sand and refinish?
Is it true that you take your shoes off when you go in and you just, like, walk around bare feet, like feeling the floor? No, is that
maybe not? We usually wear booties.
Do you really? Though I was just kidding.
Oh yeah, we like wearing booties that are out when we go in somebody's house for sure.
So, but you do take your shoe off and feel it?
No,
I was just joking. I was
just walking in on the floor. We can tell.
You can just tell.
Yeah,
Well,
we've
you've been
been
at
doing
it
it for
a
a long
little
time.
while. Yeah, right. So you can
So,
kind of.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with engineered floors.
absolutely not. That's
Well, the ability of engineer floors give the ability to put hardwood below grade,
absolutely.
where you cannot put 3/4. So
It's
if you
mean-
want to look or overheat,
In floor heat, yep.
whereas before you couldn't do that.
When for the people, because I know what you're talking about, but for the people that don't know what you're talking about, what do you mean below grade, Chris?
Basement, you could put an engineered floor in a basement,
But not
but
necessarily
not
hardwood.
3/4.
Right.
Not 3/4. You're asking for trouble with 3/4.
Well, at least not with a lot of extra work.
yeah, you'd have
You
to.
could you could put down like they make a plywood with a rubber base on it, and you could put that in. But still, that would be so much work, and then
Anything below grade level,
it's still going to be.
Why is that bad for the wood?
It's all about moisture. Humidity in your basement's going to be 10% higher than it is on the main floor.
Right.
And on a solid wood floor, it's a callback for me. And so, yeah, we would not do that.
Right.
We would always go with engineered.
And engineered offers that because of the substrate, which is the backing of the board. And
The stability.
yes, that's the Chris, you'd said off air, like what came first, or what?
What
that?
started the trend with the wide plank? Was it solid 3/4 and then engineered follow, or was it vice versa?
Yeah, I think engineered, because of the wide plank demand, the engineered, they because of the problems people were having with that, with the movement, they wanted stability. The flooring, the mills didn't want to deal with all the callbacks and all the issues. So there's a lot of mills out there that they will not go past 5 inches wide just because of callbacks.
Because of that movement,
Yeah.
that's a real thing.
For
that's,
sure.
That's happening.
Yeah.
No matter what your floor's made of, too. I mean, it's moving somewhat. PVC doesn't move as much as anything, but everything's moving. And when you're what's the most common floor you're putting in now? What's the most popular floor?
The most popular floor, if somebody's starting brand new, it's going to be a 7.5 inch wide white oak engineered floor
7.5. We're talking with Dean Yoder from Hoosier Hardwood
light
Floors.
finish.
in a light finish. Yeah.
7.5
Yeah.
plank.
And we have in our showroom we have hundreds of samples of very the variation is minimal, but there's all different looks and
I can tell you that I know somebody very well that would get lost in those. Like, okay, I can definitely see the difference in these two colors. I'm like, you and butterflies, because that's
Hey, you'd be surprised.
that's been measured twice. Thank you.
Podcasts by Federated Media.